Hey guys, Paul here. So today I wanted to pose the question, what exactly determines when a Yu-Gi-Oh card gets banned? It's an interesting one because I feel like it's like there's obvious things like this card is too good or it over-centralizes the metagame. But I feel like those sort of explanations feel so nebulous and so vague, like that can just apply to so much stuff. And really and truly, I feel like it's something that sort of has changed a lot throughout the years with Yu-Gi-Oh! We have so many cards that were like banned in the early days, and then we've got the cards that were banned like nowadays, if you catch my drift. And so at the end of the video, I also want to hear you guys' thoughts on this and what, you think should be the criteria for banning a card and what maybe trends you've noticed from Konami that perhaps I don't even mention in this video because, I mean, I don't know, it's very open-ended. Okay, so real quick, come here, come closer. Okay, I've got a trick for you guys. Something that'll make your life 1,000,000 times better, but it also costs you nothing. That something is the greatest mobile game of all time, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid's got a ton of champions, over 600 now. All these champions come from unique factions, each with their own history in the world of Teleria. So let's talk a little bit of lore. I always love elves. They're just kind of my favorite in pretty much every fantasy story I play. The elves in Raid are pretty awesome. They formed civilizations like thousands of years ago. They survived orc rampages and the collapse of the Lizardman Empire, which is also something that I kind of want to learn more about one day. Then Siroth got in their heads and created the Dark Elves. These guys were obsessed with power, and they tried to convert the whole kingdom of Aravia to shadow magic. They got caught out though, and the whole kingdom descended into civil war. It was brutal. But in the end, the Dark Elves got exiled, and Aravia rebuilt as best they could. And they did it pretty well, since now the kingdom of Aravia is the brightest, richest, and most powerful country in the realm of Teleria. And my favorite of the High Elves is Battle Sage. She's got a really useful kit, and looks cool too. And my favorite of the High Elves is Battle Sage. She's got a really useful kit and looks cool too. And this month, Raid's got a non-stop schedule of special events and activities, including Forge Pass Season 3, with some amazing rewards to offer, including a limited edition artifact set. If that's not enough, Raid's bringing out some awesome new champions, along with some awesome looking champion skins with the incredible Madame Ceres. But wait, here's the big news. Later this month, Raid is giving everybody's favorite champion the upgrade he deserves. You might have seen his struggle for awesomeness in some of Raid's hilarious videos, but finally, Death Knight is becoming a legendary champion. It's something we've all been waiting for, and I can't wait to see how Ultimate Death Knight turns out. So this is a great time to get started with Raid, and if you want to, you can follow the link in the description or follow the QR code on screen. If you do, you'll get some unique bonuses worth $30. That's right, we're talking a free epic champion, Ina, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, an XP boost, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in game. All of this treasure will be waiting for you here. So thanks again to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so if we look back at the old days of Yu-Gi-Oh, I feel like most of the cards that found their way onto the ban list were kind of like happy accidents, you might say. I think that this was a period of time in Yu-Gi-Oh where a lot of cards were just sort of being released for the first time, and it didn't feel like there was as much, I guess, forethought into like card effects and things that were releasing. So we didn't have archetypes, for instance, right? So like nowadays, if you look at like card releases, it's archetypes. Those are usually the strongest thing, and then the staple cards are kind of known as their own like separate entity. But I think with older Yu-Gi-Oh, most monsters were just standalone. So if you look at the cards like, say, Cyberjar or something, Magical Scientist, Cyberstein, even like Chaos Emperor Dragon or Yatagarasu, these are cards that, like they just kind of stand on their own. Like they do unique things, and this doesn't, they don't look much different than other really strong generic cards of the day. I mean, like something like Exiled Force didn't really, it's not like banned or anything, but you can see where like it doesn't fit into an archetype, it just happens to have a really good effect. Or, Dekuichi, the Battle-Tinted Locomotive, right? These are just kind of standalone good cards. And so when they end up finding themselves banned, it feels like legitimate, like, okay, it was oversight. Konami did not maybe see this going the way that it did. Cyberstein paying $5,000 to summon a fusion monster seems like a huge heavy cost, and at the time, in their design philosophy, like maybe it was. And so, there's also plenty of like other weird mistakes. I think of like Butterfly Dagger Elma with Gearfried the Iron Knight. Like little loops like that kind of just were unforeseen and ended up being, it's what they are. But I still feel that all of these cards, like, that's just what they were. The same can be said of the spells and traps. Obviously, like Graceful Charity, Pot of Greed, Painful Choice. You look back at them now and it's like, wow, these were like so OP and broken. And even the ones that have like come back, like Change of Heart or whatever. Uh, they were still just probably meant to be like good cards that released and then maybe Konami found over time with tournaments that like they were a little too good, but I don't know that they like designed them to be like with the intention that they might like get so frustrating that you ban them. And I bring that up because it's like if you fast forward to today, it almost feels like the players can pretty easily predict what like cards probably should be banned. There's all these monsters that have like strong floodgate effects. There's lots of omni negates. There are, decks that just feel a little too consistent or just the power level on them is too high. And of course, there's like the in-between era of just like things that kind of randomly cause loops. I think of like the Tyrant Neptune or Supreme King Dragon Starving Venom. Like they kind of could copy effects and so they cause weird burn things in just random years that they released. I guess there's like the tuners that have all died for Halka Fibrax's sins. Just so I don't know. Like I tried to condense the reason that a card might get banned down to 3 sort of trends that I noticed, but there's still a billion exceptions to that. So like these are in no way like hard fast rules. But the first one that I came across is basically cards that are like loops and FTKs. So there are old cards that fit this description. There are new cards that fit this description. There are like older cards that ended up later fitting this description. That's kind of where like the Level Eater and stuff like that, Grinder Golem, sort of come to mind for me. These are just obvious ones. I think that these make the most sense. If a card actually causes like an FTK that you can execute on like the first turn, well, that's no good. That's what got like Firewall Dragon banned. Still though, there's a pretty obvious exception here in Cannon Soldier. I'm always shocked that that card has not managed to find its way on the ban list. Especially because like Mass Driver is banned, so like why is Cannon Soldier not banned when they do so largely the same thing? And the fact that Cannon Soldier is a monster means it's actually usually more like searchable and accessible, so that's weird. And then I think of like infinite loops, so even if it's not like, a burn loop or FTK per se, just like the infinite cards like not Magical Scientist, Mind Master and like Substitute. Those sorts of cards tend to be like, they didn't have hard once returns or once returns really at all. And I think like in the conception phase, Substitute really didn't seem that bad. You can tribute a monster and summon a frog. I can kind of like forgive Konami for thinking, well, maybe that's just where it would end and that's like as far as it would go. But clearly, not the case. And some cards just got to be more complicated as time went on, like when Synchros and Xyz and of course Links showed up. Certain cards just found their way, like went from being like, it's all right, to like, oh, this is Link fodder. That's where I kind of find like the Blackwing Gofu and Blackwing Steam like situations. Steam's like getting more so a Halka Fibrax like collateral, but Gofu got banned like pretty early on, and it's just kind of like, man, Blackwing Gofu is not a broken card before Links, so yeah. But Loop and FTK cards clearly are, kind of issues. Konami doesn't seem to really like them. That goes for spells too. They're not as many. I think the only spells that like really seem directly Loop related, besides like Butterfly Dagger Elma, like Chicken Game, and I might be forgetting something. Maybe Smoke Grenade of the Thief because it can hand loop you. So there's that. Then there's the uninteractive cards, or sort of don't let you play cards. I group these together. Uninteractive and don't let you play cards tend to be like more so monsters. There's some spell and trap examples too. I guess a recent example might be like Arch Nemesis Protos because it kind of puts a blanket floodgate on the field. VFD, that's also one. Then there's like the uninteractive stuff. I think that's kind of where we're looking more at like Masterpiece, the True Draco guy. Like he's one where he's really difficult to interact with. I think of maybe even the Gin Lock as kind of something that's like an example of being like kind of locking your opponent out. So cards like that find their way in the ban list, and there are spells that sort of do the same thing. Imperial Order or Kaiser Colosseum, ones where your opponent kind of just can't do anything or heavily restricts what they can't do. Still though, there are cards that have managed to slip through the cracks. Artifact Scythe, for instance, it's sort of the walking floodgate that just doesn't let your opponent do anything. It's only for a turn, but I mean, there are several other monsters like VFD that were only for a turn, so I'm not really sure. There's other ones too. Thunder Dragon Colossus, Azathoth, Elder Entity Azathoth, or whatever it's called. So Yeah, so I think that's like a good reason for a card to get banned. I think it's pretty valid. I mean, like, nobody really likes turn skips in Yu-Gi-Oh! Nobody likes things that just say, like, you can't do anything. So I think that that's a valid one, but there are just so many exceptions. Like I said, there's Scythe, and I'm sure that someone can, like, name a couple others of cards that just sort of slip through the cracks. Like, they sort of are prevent you from doing stuff, and maybe they just fizzled out of the metagame. And then my last category, and it's easily the broadest one with not much to say other than too good. Like, I don't know, there's so many cards in the ban list now. Like, I think of maybe Eclipse Wyvern or, you know, Plush Fire, just stuff that, like, it just can summon out a lot. Like, right, these monsters can trigger a lot of effects or summon a lot of stuff out to the field. I don't know if, what exact criteria means for, like, too good. Does Max C fall in this category? Why exactly? I'm not here to, like, debate whether or not Max C gets, like, should or shouldn't be banned. I just mean, like, you know, is there like sort of a checklist of what determines like is this card like ban worthy? And then there's like the more kind of miscellaneous things like play experience. I've kind of always thought that Konami factors this in somewhat to their ban list decisions. Like, does a card make the game state itself feel like kind of just unpleasant to play in? Maybe that's kind of closer to where Max Z falls, or is that maybe like what you'd call some of the like extra deck monsters that are on the list? Because like there's plenty of them that can like cause things like Top Logic Gumblar Dragon, right? It's sort of it's not like a hand loop, but also like it can just make it so hard for your opponent to play. So does that count? I don't really know. Danglong and stuff that can like search these counter traps. I guess that just falls under too good, or I don't really know. It's so interesting. And then like there's the question of what determines if a card gets like limited versus gets banned, because even right now there's cards that some people want to just get banned outright, and other people say like maybe these things should get limited. Floodgates like Mystic Mine, or There Can Be Only One, or like Anti-Spell Fragrance. People right now are saying like some of that stuff should get banned. I wonder what determines whether or not it gets banned versus limited. Because limited has its own like quirks. If a card's limited to one, it can actually start to feel sackier when it is drawn, because like the RNG feels like it's playing a larger role. So there's that. And then finally we get into just the extra deck where like I think, Link, there was a period of time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where like Link monsters were getting banned basically left and right. Like every ban list, we got a new banned Link monster. Electromite, Nightmare Mermaid, some Guard Dragon thing. There were so many, Summon Sorceress, or whatever. So like I don't really know. With that, that feels like Konami's got to just play it by ear. There's so many powerful cards, and sometimes I think they don't even learn their lesson with some of these cards. Like some stuff just gets banned and then they release the same damn thing like a year later, right? Like we have like Summon Sorceress came out and it like summoned stuff from the deck, and that was clearly problematic. But then we also got Halka Vibrax, and like Union Carrier. I don't know. Who knows? But anyways, I think I've gone on long enough. The point is, I sometimes think about this. Like, what determines what makes a card ban worthy? Is it the time it's been out? Is it how fun or unfun it is to play against? There's other criteria, that sort of makes a card ban worthy. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts down in the comments. It's going to be it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Best turn.